Yo, what's up guys? Teacher Paul here, and today we're reacting to this video, which was a request from Susan. And Susan says, this is a multicultural family living in Sweden. Max is from Sweden, and he's Scottish also. And Maya is from Canada, and she's Filipino American as well. They have a YouTube channel together, and they're showing their life together. Okay, let's check it out. So this is Max and Maya living. If you want to go check out their video, link is in the description, but then come back to see my reaction to it. Let's go. Okay, let's use this screen.
So many new things to see. Welcome back to our channel. This is Max.
This is Maya.
And if you hear some breathing, it's our daughter Saga.
She's behaving now. She's been on this whole
When
setup.
she was crying.
Do you,
so
boo?
we're trying to figure out how to do this. So you might see jump cuts. She's here, she's there, she's over there. It's go with it. So you probably clicked this video because it's all about multiculturalism and how we plan on raising our daughter. For myself, I am born and raised in Canada, but my mom is Filipino, my dad is African American, and you?
And I am born and raised in Sweden. My mom is Scottish and my dad is Swedish. And yeah, that's
That is so cool. That child has 5 cultures to learn from, which is amazing. Multicultural family in Sweden.
Saga is all of the above.
yes. I'm gonna start off by just asking you a question. That's how we're gonna go into this.
Yeah, what is
video
she gonna
today.
learn first?
And you know, considering you were brought up in Toronto, born and bred, and then you've lived, you know, in multiple different cities in the world, and Toronto being one of the most diverse city I've ever seen in my whole life, and I used to live in London, which is
Wow.
also diverse, but Toronto takes the prize of all the places I've ever visited.
Really?
So having
I
that
didn't know
in
that
your
about Toronto.
having that in your, you know, luggage, coming into countryside Sweden, how does that feel?
Yeah, Toronto is the most diverse. A lot of people are mixed. Like, my generation is already mixed, and so our children are like a quarter, an eighth, and a 16th of everything. It was fine when I was not a mother. It was fine when I wasn't pregnant. When I was, all of a sudden, it became one of the hardest things I've had to go through.
Well,
She
was
has
that
to
a
worry.
hormonal thing, or was it just that it became more
Dude, you
real?
did not
think-
just say that.
Yeah, it was hormonal, but it was also, it heightened my sensitivities. Like, I became sensitive to everything, including the culture. And yeah, it's tough, but I don't get caught up in that. Like, for the most part, because I am, like, I've always felt like the black sheep in my family. Like, literally, I am the black girl in the family. So I've always felt like an outsider, and it doesn't make that much of a difference here. The language is the hardest thing.
What do you mean when you say that it doesn't make that much of a difference here?
Like, I'm black in an Asian family, so now I'm black in a Swedish countryside.
Right, so it's familiar
so
to you.
Yeah, it's more or less the same in terms of family, but in terms of like landscape, like that's what I love about metropolitan cities, because
You
I feel
blend in.
like I get to blend in. Whereas
That's what I said.
here, it's actually changing. From the first time I came here 2 years ago to now,
Yeah.
like, our neighbors are from,
Afghanistan and Pakistan.
yeah, and then our friend Salim, he's half,
Is Bangladeshi?
and Swedish.
Bangladeshi, do you say that? From Bangladesh. And then we have Turks up here, neighbors too.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's changing.
it's changing. So I would say
think
the
the whole
hardest
world
part is
is.
the language, and then the culture. In terms of, like, Swedes move so opposite of me. Like, they're all about their fikas, which is taking a break in the middle of the day to have some coffee and cookies.
Huge thing.
Which is something everybody should do, you know. Save some time for fika.
It's a big thing.
Yeah.
And they love their semesters, their holidays.
You who don't know, semesters in Sweden is when you basically take your vacation, and everyone here takes it 4 weeks in the summer. and from what we're used to,
That's
you're
so
spreading
cool.
out your holidays on different scenarios, which makes it really hard to move in the summer too, because then a lot of things are closed and
Yeah.
a lot of labor is like limited because of that.
They don't want to work out here, is what I just noticed. Like, let me just sum it up. Swedes don't want to work. They want to chill and enjoy life. So that's been the hardest part. How about you? How do you?
What about working hours? Like how many hours do you guys work a day? Because I feel like you guys have less working hours. It's more flexible. I think work for you guys in Scandinavia is less of a burden. It's more like what you want to do. Obviously, you want to make ends meet and all that, but it feels like you guys have more options in being happy in your work, whereas in other parts of the world you got to do whatever is offered to you because work is so hard to find and people hold the money on over your head. If you quit, you lose all of that. You know what I'm saying? They control you so much and you don't have any rights. You're basically a corporate slave. I don't feel like Scandinavia has that. I think work ethics are much better. So that's interesting to see. I think you guys are doing something right.
See our daughter and raising her.
The first thing that comes in my mind, because we speak English together, even though English is not my mother tongue, although I am half, I'm brought up in Swedish and I had to learn English because no one spoke English to me growing up, so I had to learn the same way as any other Swede would do in school. That was the first thing that we had a conversation about, like how are we going to, what languages are we going to apply on our daughter, what languages are we going to speak. And I had this idea that if she is indeed brought up in Sweden and if she's going to nursery here, if she's going to school here, she's exposed to a lot of Swedish family.
That's smart. I was going to say that.
I think that it would be more. The best thing would be to speak English at home with her.
Prata engelska på hem.
Yeah, hemma.
Okay, here are my ideas. Just bear with me. In Sweden, you learn English very well, right? And Swedish. Because Nordic countries learn English and Swedish at home. I mean, in school, right? So what if you do this? English and Swedish, let the school teach. Because she's going to learn with her friends. She's going to grow up and learn English and Swedish in school. And at home, you can teach Tagalog and, I think English. That would be interesting. That would be so cool.
Hemma.
Prata engelska hemma. I think that I would have hoped that maybe my mom would have done when I grew up, that they would have kept the English language. You know, I still think that English is, my English is okay, but it could have been even better, even more fluent.
You're so tough on yourself. I wish my mom had spoken.
You guys, everyone that I've met from Scandinavia, you guys have perfect English and you always say, oh, my English is not that good. I need to improve. That's crazy. That's crazy. Because if you see English as a second language in other countries, it's not anywhere as near as good as what you guys speak.
Her dialect at home. So for me, growing up, she's practiced her English. So I speak only English, and I wish she spoke. Our dialect is Bisaya, not Tagalog for all the Filipinos out there.
100%, I agree with
And now
Flash.
I feel like I'm gonna do the same to her because I want to practice my Swedish. So I would be practicing my Swedish on her. Yeah. Swedes here are so sensitive about their English.
Yeah.
Like every Swedish person speaks English and
That's
they're
what
like,
I said.
no, we don't speak. I'm like, you speak, but you are so shy that your English isn't perfect. And this is the only culture that I've seen people are like embarrassed that their English isn't perfect.
It's true what Maya is saying, that I
It's
feel
crazy.
like they have so good English, but they have to be able to control what they're going to say, and if they can't do that, they prefer just to be quiet.
Yeah.
And I can only say that because when I first moved to London and I was speaking English, I probably had the best English out of the foreign speakers in my office when I was working. I wasn't able to relay my message in a perfect way that I would do in my Swedish language.
Yeah, you
my
guys are
mother tongue.
perfectionists.
So I kept quiet instead. I didn't just go there. I didn't use, you know, body language or using a word in Swedish in order to make myself understood. But then I had French and Polish and Italian colleagues who did have a very, very low level of English compared to me, but they made themselves heard by speaking.
They were confident.
They were confident, and they spoke with confidence. And meanwhile, I'm sitting there with probably better English, but I'm so afraid of not coming across as, I don't know, intellectual as I would do in Swedish. I'll just be quiet.
It's a very Swedish thing.
Yeah, so it's a Swedish culture. We have good English because it's in our culture to be very reserved and quiet already. So maybe that sort of translates into a new language. Can I also ask,
So what I think happens is you guys are so perfectionist that you always improve. Because if you're not self-aware, you don't try to improve. So I think a lot of Swedes kind of like think, oh, my English is not great. So they try to improve it. And that's why they get so good at it. Because they all are always being very harsh on themselves. You know what I'm saying?
Country like Sweden, where English is so accessible already, despite whatever we just explained, do you also get a bit comfortable in that? Do you think if you were in Germany or France,
oh my god,
would you?
I'd be so screwed.
Yeah, you would have had to.
I would have to speak. Yeah.
The fact that you know when she calls,
hey, you guys don't speak English in Germany?
Get all these things.
Even what he's saying, when you tell me to call these things, I'm like, those sounds.
Yeah.
Like, say it again.
Försäkringskassan.
And then
Skatteverket.
Okay, so like even when you say mine, did you do this? My brain's like.
Yeah.
What did you say?
But it's beautiful that when you call them, the first thing they ask is like,
for assistance in English, press 8.
When I lived in Germany,
Nice.
that was not the case.
Yeah,
when I called,
yeah.
I had to like.
That has also been a thing I noticed here in Sweden.
Yeah.
They're changing to be more English. She's out. Yes.
You were mentioning that you felt like a black sheep in a Filipino family. Now you have a child who's mixed, brought up in Europe, Northern Hemisphere, Scandinavian Sweden, which is predominantly white.
Yeah.
How does that feel for you? Do you feel like you have? Can you already feel empathy for her growing up, about identity, how she would see herself? Like, how do you feel about that? Have you even reflected upon that?
I haven't really reflected upon it because right now she's super bright. So, but to me she is. I don't know how, like, because all things are relative, right? Like in my family, because I was black, I identify as having a black experience. But then depending on where in the world I go, they're like, oh no, you're not black, you're this.
That was someone else telling you what
Yeah. So I personally identify as a black woman who culturally is raised Asian. For Saga, I mean, I look at her and I'm like, girl, you
Let's just say
as of right now.
It's a nice name.
But she
Saga.
might not view that here on the countryside. She might be perceived as, I don't know what the world is going to label her as.
Right.
But I think what I want to instill in her, like what my mom did was I really appreciate, which was she didn't put that as a focus. She didn't put race or beauty as a focus. She put work and character as a focus. So it was the world who treated me differently, but at home, I was just my mom's daughter. And so I hope that we have the same experience with her, and obviously I'll have the conversations with her, but I hope, if anything, her experience of culture and race is more of a lived experience by like us traveling possibly us living in different places. But like, I don't want to intellectualize it personally. Like, kudos to those that do that, but like for her, I would love to have her experience. And like see where she identifies in the world, but I don't want to put anything on her.
I will agree.
That is a pretty interesting insight as well. Like, for example, me. What do you guys consider me as? Because a lot of people call me white. Nobody looks at me and says, oh, he's Latino. They just say, yeah, the white guy. I don't know. Honestly, I never grew up thinking about that. I don't think race is something that was a big part in my life. Oh, actually, it was. I grew up in Africa, so I was the odd one out. Maybe I just didn't look at that. Maybe because I was the only white guy in my class. So yeah, but I never looked at that. I don't know. I don't think that was a big deal for me. Kind of. I don't know.
With you in terms of like, because me, I haven't had that experience at all.
Yeah.
This is something
That's the funny thing. I was white until I told people where I'm from, and then I became, oh, it's the football guy, you know, and everybody started loving me because people thought I was European, white European. But then once you say, oh, you know, where I'm from, and they're like, okay, okay, nice, 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 and then they start being your friend because of
I will
football.
agree with you in terms of like, because me, I haven't had that experience at all. This
Yeah.
is something that is being
It's new.
thrown at me for the previous 4 years, and I could have been ignorant towards that, but it's also
Right.
being brought up more now to our attention. Social media and all this is talking about it all the time, race and stuff, which when I grew up, that wasn't a thing. We were never aware of that. And then, so for me, I will view myself as a viewer, as an observer, someone who just has to stay present and listen to whatever she goes through.
Yeah.
And if I find myself
Nice.
ignorant, or I want to be be open to make mistakes, because we will make mistakes all the time, and when it comes to very sensitive subjects, that we are also having a lot of different cultures, but then social media is kind of having like a common ground. You sometimes think that everyone should
Yeah.
follow the same ground, but we don't know each other's past and history. So I just want to be in a humble space where I can see my daughter grow up in this world, and whatever she identifies herself as, or whatever she feels like, whatever she feels uncomfortable or unsure or uncertain, I want to just be sort of a pillar for her to lean on, and also be a good listener as a father, I think. Who
That's
haven't
a
had
nice
that
thing for a
experience. So I
father
can
to
only
say.
answer that question, that subject, on as a observer,
Yeah.
as opposed to
Yeah. I would love for her to be defined by her character, just like her work ethic, her view on life, her belief system. Those are the things that I value.
Who she
but then
is,
also,
right?
to your point, I'm gonna go back on the whole white
Not
thing.
what she looks like.
Even for me, white is a very North American term, because in America and Canada, white is like a hodgepodge of Swedish, Irish, all these European groups,
Hodgepodge.
ethnic groups
I
mixed
like
into
that.
one. So in Canada, US, it's very much white-black. But if you go to countries in Africa or countries in Europe, it's specific to the country. So here in Sweden, typically, like, you can be culturally Swedish, which is blonde, blue eyes. It varies, but culturally that, or ethnically you can be an ethnic Swede. Now you can be her and be a mixed Swede, which is newer.
Yeah.
That's a new
I mean,
phenomenon.
Sweden is changing
It's
a lot.
changing.
It's
So diverse now.
If you go to the big cities, Gothenburg, Malmö, Stockholm, it's changing.
It's like
lot.
Toronto. It's like a mini Toronto.
Yeah, you can see it in the grocery stores. You can see
That's
it in
interesting. I
certain
didn't know that.
shops, and like the fact that we can get plantain.
Oh yeah.
Plantain.
Like, I was so
Mangoes or
happy. Mango,
yeah.
like big mangoes. Yeah, like that wasn't the case when I lived here 7-8 years ago.
Right, but for me it's interesting because I've never lived in a country where ethnically you are Swedish, aka white. The world would call you white, but
Yeah.
here you're Swedish. And now I wonder, what does it mean for the Swedish person who is culturally, ethnically
Yeah.
Swedish, and they see all these immigrants? The U.S.
So wait, so I'm a white Latino? Is that it?
Canada can't claim that title. You can't be out here saying I'm native Canadian or American, because you have to be native Indian, like native Indian or First Nations.
Yeah, but we have natives here too. We have Samis.
Yeah,
Samis,
but in Canada, like that is versus like white. White isn't native to Canada.
Right.
What I'm saying is, like, what is native to that land or
Yeah.
that country, whereas it is here. So I think I'm curious what like a Swedish ethnic citizen thinks of all this immigration.
Yeah, yeah.
If it's true.
Let me know if you're Swedish. What do you think of immigration? You know, I actually, that's a very tricky question, and it feels like it's a loaded question also, because immigration really does not matter if you are not talking about individuals. You can have great immigrants, such as myself. I'm kidding, Not really. No, but seriously, I I am a good immigrant, and I don't want to classify it as good or bad, but I'm a good example of someone who appreciates the culture, who tries to be good and give back to society, and who tries to learn and be as British as one can be. Um, you know, uh, fish and chips, Greg's every day. I'm kidding, but on the what I'm trying to say is that you need to look at individuals, because the problem is not immigration. The problem are people who cause chaos and cause division and just straight up criminals. And obviously, you also have criminals who is a national of that country. Those people go to jail. So immigrants that commit crimes or do things that are not national, they get deported. So I feel like the problem is not immigration. The problem are individuals, people who do not conform to society, and they don't bring anything good to society. I think that's the problem. And they are the ones who give us, who are working and doing everything we're supposed to do in a different country, respecting the culture. They give us a bad look. They give us a bad image. But as I said, criminals in your own country will give your neighborhood a bad look as well. So immigration is not a problem. The problem is the individuals, the bad actors. You know what I'm saying? That's my opinion. I don't think immigration is an issue. And sometimes it's just the bad apples, exactly. You know, and sometimes you get illegal immigrants that behave much better than legal immigrants. So it's very nuanced. It comes down to the individual, right? There are people who have been living in London illegally for 10, 20 years. What are you going to do? Immigration didn't do their job. They're here illegal, but they have been here for 20 years, and maybe they are trying to do better. So these type of people, they need to be heard as individuals and heard as humans as well. They did a wrong thing, then they have to answer for the wrong thing they did, being here illegally, maybe not paying taxes, overstaying, but they shouldn't be classified as the same as the criminals as well. So I think it's very nuanced, it's very individual. Each case is a different case. So yeah, there are people who have had children here, and their children are British now. It's just, I don't know. It's just very, very nuanced. So when you say, "Oh, immigration is the problem," then you are just generalizing, because there's a lot of different cases and scenarios. I do not support illegal immigration. I think everybody needs to be legally in this country, but also I don't I cannot say that immigration is the problem, obviously, because I am an immigrant myself and I know what I do for this society, and I know what I do. I pay all my taxes, like a little bit too much actually. But you know what I'm saying? Yeah, anyways. Let me know your thoughts.
I'm sure there are. I mean, there's a lot of fear also for change.
Yeah.
That's something that we noticed. We have politicians who express a threat towards immigration, and so forth. But I also realized that Europe look up to the U.S. So whatever trend is shifting in
The world,
in the world, I mean, it's the biggest influence in the whole world. I think the U.S. So whatever when they refer to white and black.
Right.
I can already see that translates here too.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Obviously,
I
people
wonder
confused
why.
because we're not brought
It's
up
so
with that.
confusing.
But I can already see and hear the conversation of that here and other places in Europe. So
Because what is defined as white?
That's a good question.
Because here in Europe, it's like you're German and you're Swedish.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting subject, and if you have any inputs on that, please share that.
Yeah, like I'm white. Am I the same category as Swedish or German? I don't know. What do you guys think? I think this type of race thing is just strange, you know. And my grandfather, had darker skin than she did. So that's something to consider and think. I don't know. I'm just gonna say I'm Latino. That's it. But my grandmother was very, very white, so I came out this way. Or my mother came out white, then I came out white. You know what I'm saying?
In the comments below, like,
I think she
but
was
I think
of
personally,
Polish
like,
descent.
yes, it would be hard for me to refer to a German who would come. I wouldn't refer to him as a white guy. White guy
no.
came by, or if it was a Norwegian person who would come by, I wouldn't refer to him as white. Whereas I know in the US, when you hear that conversation, they would say, "Oh, this white guy came."
But yeah, that's.
But I don't know what that.
I think that's a problem because people are using the U.S. And their system of identity and boxing, and like it's very broad. It's very broad paint strokes. Whereas depending on where you go in the world, you can't use black in countries in Africa because it's very specific. There's so many countries in Africa and so many different racial groups as well. So this whole broad like white black works there, and I think people just need to keep in mind when you leave and go to certain countries, be mindful of where you're at.
Would you say that Canada is different from the US?
Yeah, because it's similar to Sweden because they had so much immigration. So very.
I mean, Canada and the US aren't having good relationships right now. Like Canada and US, I think that relationship has gone sour.
Very rarely will you, well, when I was growing up, would you say black? I use black because I'm literally African American. But people growing up were like, yeah, but from where? Jamaica, Trinidad? I'm like, no, I'm African American. They're like, yeah, but where? I'm like, Chicago. They're like, no. Where? I'm like, okay, Mississippi. No.
They want to dig.
I was like, my family has been born and raised in Mississippi for 300 years.
What were they?
Okay, but that's confusing to me because she said she's African American. So where in Africa is her descent from? I mean, do you know what I'm saying? Like, for example, I could say my grandfather is African Brazilian, and most African Brazilians come from Angola. They're the descendant of Angolans who were brought from Angola to Brazil, right, to the north side of Brazil or the northeast of Brazil. So when you say you're African American, it implies that you have African descent, right? And Jamaica is not in Africa, so people who are asking that just feels weird to ask because that doesn't make sense, right? Or for example, I'm white European. Okay, you're white European from where? That's a decent question. From where? Because Europe has a lot of different countries. I never understood this whole thing of African American if they are not descendants of Africans. I don't know. I don't get into this conversation because I feel like it's very sensitive and people might misconstrue and not understand it. But I understand what she's trying to say, that she was born and raised in the United States. But then some people might be asking where in Africa she's from. I don't know. As I said, this is a very complex topic to try and understand.
Expecting you to say.
They wanted me to say Jamaican, Nigeria, Trinidad. Because in Canada, that is like the new wave. Whereas in the U.S., they have been there for hundreds of years. So you would never have to explain in America, like, black from where though? You're just black.
I'm not a presenter here. I'm just genuinely curious because I am from Sweden, and seeing my wife Maya come here, how it's been very stressful for me too.
Oh yeah.
To see you, because I remember for you, because I respect where you come from in terms of like, because you lived in the US and race was a thing for you.
Yeah.
And you obviously had your experiences towards racism and etc. Whatever comes in that baggage. So I remember like one of the first thing that came to my mind when I was looking for a home in the countryside was like, how is Maya going to how does it gonna feel to come to a place where no one looks like her? How can I support her?
And what did you do? How did you?
I decided in the moment that I have to experience it when it comes.
Oh, okay.
Because that's so funny.
We'll-
Because when
we'll-
you did come here,
We'll think about that
it
when
was
we
like
cross that
nothing.
bridge.
It's like you were so unbothered with it.
I wasn't bothered here on the countryside, but remember my experience when I first got to Stockholm?
Oh yeah.
I had a freaking nervous breakdown
Yeah.
because, again, like my world coming from the U.S., I got like mistreated by 2 security guards who
Dang.
happened to be,
So sorry.
you know, blue-eyed, white,
Yeah.
and
So it was like a trigger for you.
It was a
like,
trigger
what
for me,
shit?
so I was like, are they being racist? I can't help but go to that when I'm face to face with someone who is white and they're being rude for whatever reason. Like, it's just like, are they racist or are they just rude?
Yeah.
And I always have to,
because that's a
constantly
real
go in
thing,
my head,
guys.
'cause
People
I can
are
feel like a
literally
victim of
racist
racism, and I'm like,
when they
oh, are
when they don't like when they're racist. They're racist. They can't hide it. Racists cannot hide it. That's the truth.
they could just be an asshole to any and everyone. So I would say my experience on the countryside, though,
Was better.
was way freaking better than the city.
How come?
People here seem so nice, like they want to help, or they're just more warm.
Yeah.
I think they're
So
just
that's a lot
more
to
used to it.
digest. Those are our experiences. I'm really curious to see how Saga interprets the world, and I hope it has more to do with culture than it does with race, personally.
One way or another, these subjects and concepts will be brought up to our tables. I'm glad we could sit down and have this conversation now.
It's important to
And
do that.
also having this conversation with you, I would be so grateful if you could share if you've had similar experience, if there's something that you can relate to from the conversation that we're having. Please feel free to share that in the comment section below.
Turn your notifications on, and we'll see you next time. This is smart.
Saga is so cute. Oh, that's so cute. Okay, yeah. Guys, I don't know. In my opinion, like for me, race was never a big thing. As I said, I grew up in Africa and I was only like, not to say I was the only white guy in school, because, you know, depending where you are, you do have a lot of white folks there. But this was back in 1994. 1994. But in parts of the countries that I grew up in, for example, Angola, Mozambique, Lesotho, yeah, I also grew up in Lesotho, and that is one of the places where we were basically the only white family in the neighborhood. Lesotho was very hard to find white people. And it's interesting because people would see us and they would be pointing and be like, and then when we saw another white person, we'd be like, because it was so rare. You know, when you're like out and about, and let's say you're in China or whatever, and you see another person from your country, you get surprised and you're like, oh, what is a Swede doing here? You know what I'm saying? That's how we felt in Lesotho when we saw other white families. We're like, what are these white people doing here? And that's how people felt when we also walked around. A lot of pointing, a lot of talking. We were like kind of the odd ones out. And this was in 1994. You know, immigration wasn't that big, and it's interesting to see. And as I said, growing up, also, I've told you guys I didn't like studying too much, so my grades were not the best. And unfortunately, when your grades aren't the best, you don't go to the best schools and you don't go to the best classes. So I remember when I was living in Namibia, I was in class 7D, which the only class worse than D is E. And they are separated by A, B, C, D, E, and I think F, if I'm not mistaken. If there's a lot of people in the school, you probably go until F. And in my school, A was a class only for white people. A was only whites. B was a mix of whites and the best students that were mixed, right? It was mixed. C was a mix of blacks and whites, and D was just the rejects, which I was one of them. But E was the ones that had no more hope. So I was at least put in a D class. So yeah, but for me, everything was just fun. I didn't see it as a apartheid or segregation. As I was a kid, you know, so for me it was just fun and games. I was part of the last row, you know, group, so I felt just like, oh, this is fun, you know. I'm the odd one out here. So to not say I was the only white guy in school, that's not going to be accurate, because as I said, A had all the whites and they were part of the rugby team and, you know, stuff like that. But for me, I was the only white in my class, except for one guy, Arthur. I don't think he's ever watching this, but he was the only other white guy, and it was fun. But we didn't talk because I didn't have any white friends growing up. So as I said, I don't know what to tell you. And people who were working with my parents there, they had children. So my dad's colleagues had some children, but they were also from Brazil. So it's interesting because I grew up in a very multicultural environment, and maybe that's why I love, you know, multiculturalism. Um, but it's interesting to see the perspective of someone who maybe has never had contact with people from outside their neighborhood. I don't know. It's so, for me, it's such a odd thing to grow up in the same place. As you guys know, I grew up in different countries, 8 different countries by the age of 16. So that's around 2 years per country. So it's just crazy to think that people go to the same school, grow up in the same neighborhood, have the same friends. For me, that's such a foreign idea. I just can't relate to that. Imagine going to the same school, living in the same house for years. I just don't know what that feels like. So I can understand how people could be alienated a little bit. Like if somebody grows up in a only white neighborhood, for example, and then some foreigners or some immigrants come in, I can understand how they would be shocked or surprised to see these foreigners coming into our neighborhood. I think I can understand, but at the same time, I really can't relate to that. But unless it's the other way around, because as I said, we were the only whites in the neighborhood, and whenever we saw another white person in the shopping mall, we were surprised, almost like, "Hey, how did you get here?" It was funny, but I think things change nowadays. Immigration has grown all over the world, so that's probably a good thing. Let me know your thoughts, guys. Anyways, it's interesting to see different point of views. So leave a comment, and it's gonna be interesting to see how she grows up with 5 different cultures. I hope she doesn't get confused. Like for me, I grew up learning different languages, and I grew up, you know, half the country I was living in and half the country I was born in. So I felt like it's not confusing at all. But at some point in my life, I did feel like, hey, where do I belong anywhere? And then I just started thinking, I actually belong to the world, the universe, wherever I am. Just very international. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Go support their channel. They seem like really good folks. Max and Maya, link is in the description. And don't forget, guys, we're here live on Twitch. Come join us. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. If you want to watch videos, reactions to full movies, shows, series, concerts, and K-dramas, go over to Buy Me a Coffee. Link is in the description, Patreon as well, or click over here, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care for now. Bye-bye.